Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the September 14th, 2023 meeting of the Planning and Zoning Commission. Planning and Zoning Commission will hold public comment on items which are listed on the agenda. There are multiple ways to comment, either in person here tonight or via email. We're going to do things slightly a little differently this evening. Some of you may know that we're in a little bit of a transition period with bringing on some new commissioners, so this is a rare opportunity that the current chair, myself, is still here while we're in this transition time. So I am actually going to turn the rest of the meeting over to the vice chair to run, since she will become the new chair. So this is kind of a chance to step into that role while having essentially any assistance she may need, but I don't think she will. So with that in mind, Vice Chair Levi, please.
Attendance, okay.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and take a roll call. Acting Chair Levi,
Present.
Acting Vice Chair Archibald,
Present.
Commissioner Hoke,
Present.
Commissioner Fairclough,
Present.
Commissioner Barton,
Present.
Commissioner Bubanek,
Present.
and Commissioner Bean.
Present.
We have a quorum.
All right, the first order of business is to review the minutes from July 19th and the August 2nd, 2023 meeting. The Planning and Zoning Commission. Did any of the commissioners have any comments on those meeting minutes? No? So I'd like to make a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Second? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. The meeting minutes for July 19th and August 2nd, 2023 have been approved. Next order of business is plan review, and it's going to be presented by Stephanie Monson-Dahl, Planning and Urban Design, Reimagining Pack Square, a vision plan.
So y'all know you can't see behind you, but the screens went out again. So maybe I was wrong about the plugging in and out, but we're going to do our best.
If there's some trick or something or rhyme or reason, I haven't figured it out yet, so apologies.
Thank you, Acting Chair, and the rest of the Planning and Zoning Commission. Welcome, new Commissioner, Susan. My name is Stephanie Monson-Dahl, and I am the Director of Planning and Urban Design. I'm here to talk to you today about the Pack Square vision plan that we have been working on at the city for almost a year now. So this picture that you see in front of you, it's a pretty beautiful picture. We all really love Pack Square Plaza. And when you look at it, are these ones going out too?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, okay. I'm very sorry about the AV here. We'll do our best. Hopefully it'll come on at least once a slide. Is this something we can email to them or have them linked to so they could?
Yeah,
We can pull it up.
It's in
Thank
the-
you. So
yeah.
since you,
We have
okay,
access.
well, let's move along then. That's great. So beautiful picture we have in front of you, Pack Square Plaza. But what you don't see in this picture is the fact that for many people in our community, this place is not welcoming. It has been divisive for many years. Behind you, if you were standing in this location, you would have seen the site of the former, or you would see the site of the former Vance Monument, which the city agreed to take down after recommendations from the Joint City-County Vance Monument Task Force. But there are other things in this plaza that also make it unwelcoming or inaccessible. And it is because of that that we looked at a larger area when moving forward with this plan, things like ADA accessibility and whether or not other people felt that they were recognized in this area. Few things that we are going to hopefully learn together today, and that is that for the purposes of this plan, we were very successful. We had 5 purposes we asked the consultant to work with the city and county on, and we were successful in creating a plan that addressed all of those. Secondarily, we were able to take everyone's input that we heard and put into 10 themes that are going to be able to guide us moving forward for any decisions that we make in this area. The third point is that we do have 10 community-supported design ideas that can help propel us forward towards the vision that was created in this plan. Fourth is that this vision plan is in alignment with the downtown master plan and the comprehensive plan, which should be germane to you in your consideration of whether or not to recommend that City Council approve this plan. And the last piece of this for you to know is that we do have a lot of momentum moving forward. The city was successful in getting a $3 million grant from the Mellon Foundation that will help us work on 3 different aspects of this project. Here you see the 5 purposes of this plan. They have to do with repurposing the area around the former Vance Monument, talking about equity and inclusion in the larger area, being able to move forward with the design process in the future, considering that this is a very special area and that we would need some public-private partnerships to be able to propel us forward in a way that goes beyond your typical neighborhood park investment. And the last part is just being able to connect both physically and mentally to the block, the sister neighborhood that is right next door. One of the things that I want to pull up and have everybody think about is about the power of parks and public spaces. So this is an investment for our future, and a lot of people, even City Council the other night, recognize this park has been designed and reinvested in for many years, hundreds of years. And there's good reason for that. It is our living room. It is downtown is our living room. And this right here is the heart of downtown. So parks are meant for many things, and they can help with economic development. They help with social cohesion. They're very important when it comes to health and wellness. And that is why we make special investments in places like this. Community engagement in this process lasted for about 9 months. We had a variety of different types of engagement, everything from one-on-ones, focus groups on specific topics. We had site tours. We had your typical kinds of presentations. We did a pop-up studio at Penny Cup Coffee. We held a design charrette. All of those things resulted in us being able to synthesize public comment into 10 areas. I mentioned that before. And I'll just say that some of those things that you might expect that you'll see because of the design aspect that you'll be seeing a little bit later is that, we care about having a safe environment. That was topically very important. Recently, especially, that pedestrian-friendly downtowns are important to people, and that's part of implementing our downtown master plan and our comprehensive plan. And probably more than anything is that this place should be people-centered. So our first design idea is really about this people-centered place. Right now, when you go to Pack Square Plaza, it feels a little bit more like it's 2 streets with a little median in the middle of it. So we heard pretty loud and clear that the community wants more spaces and amenities and activities to do in this area full-time. And you'll see on the top left, concept design. It's not a fully planned design. It's not a master plan. It just suggests different elements in different places. You're going to be hearing about those in the next few minutes. And then these other pictures that you're looking at, including the one in the bottom right that you probably all recognize as Belshare from the 1980s, one of the first ones, are really trying to emphasize that people want to be doing things with other people in this space. So it is, not, even if it's just reflecting and relaxing, but that this is a space for people, and it's not a space for memorials, markers, and historic signs. It's not a collection for things. It's a space to collect people. Our second design idea really talks about public safety from the pedestrian standpoint. This is the first of several moves in a kind of transportation theme, which is to say that even just the crosswalk as you enter from what feels like the main primary entrance into Peck Square Plaza, it's not oriented in the right place. People aren't crossing there because it feels unsafe. And if you're, I wish we had a better picture of this, but you'll see where the lights are and where the crosswalk is. It's just not intuitive in that space for traffic to really understand who should be going or where they should be stopping. So we need to address that simple type of design flaw. And at the same time, we need to focus on what we came here to do and have integrity with it, which is we said we were going to remove the Vance Monument, and if the North Carolina Supreme Court allows us to do that, we will go forward and do that. The plan also includes information that says pretty clearly, we had a consensus from people who participated in this, and they don't want to see the Vance Monument replaced with another monument. They want to see this be a place for people. There are spaces for markers, memorials, monuments, and historic signs, public art, all of that in the square. This is a place that should be for people. This fourth design recommendation is something that was recommended 20 years ago as well, when the square was last redesigned. And that is to provide more activity on the northern edge. What you're looking at on the left there is the raised lawn in front of the Biltmore building. People don't know that that is a public space. And you can see a tiny sign, and that sign is right where the property line is. So if we can get rid of that raised lawn and provide spaces for micro businesses, other vendors, and enjoy the same kind of activity that happens when there's a festival there, people would be safer. We would experience a better sense of safety with eyes on the park and eyes on that space. And we'd also be looking at maybe a more diverse economic development climate as well. Just down from that, on the eastern edge of the plaza, there's another raised lawn. That is another space that people don't necessarily realize is a public space. It could be utilized better. So we heard from a lot of people that having a space for healing is important. Having a space where you can recognize the past harms, maybe come together, is something that they'd want to see. And this space could be ADA accessible. It is not now, and it could be a place where we have programming with public art and where we can tell stories about important people in our community and at the same time bring everyone together. So that's called the Meditation Grove. Closing North Pack Square, this was a non-recommendation recommendation that came out of the joint City-County Vance Monument Task Force. They added in their own study report, we're not supposed to tell you what to do other than to remove, replace, or keep the Vance Monument. But one thing we can tell you for sure, even though you didn't ask, was please close this road. You don't need this road. Everyone has basically agreed that what you need is spaces for that building to have loading, spaces for that building have ADA, handicap parking somewhere else. And that by doing that and potentially dropping those curbs, so it's more like a Woonorf, which is very jargony planning term for just a pedestrian-friendly street like Wall Street, that we could attract more people here and increase the size of the park by 25% immediately. Additionally, if we converted College Street from one-way to two-way traffic, we could get a lot of traffic that is now using South Pack Square out of the square. The only reason people are using that road is, well, not the only reason, 90% of the traffic that is using that road is heading around the curve to College Street. They could get there if if you could take Biltmore Avenue and Broadway and go behind the Biltmore building if that section was two-way. It's already two-way all the way up to Market Street. This is something that's going to take a lot of negotiation, and it's not a short-term recommendation in the plan, but it can happen, and it is also something that has been recommended many times in the past. The eighth design recommendation is to connect Pack Square in the block through what we're calling a cultural corridor. Cultural corridor ties together all the disparate elements of storytelling and placemaking that are already happening there. Think about Triangle Park and the mural that's at the south end, and the plaque for the block or James Vester Miller recognition on the north end. What ties those things together as an experience? It's also a way to say, like, if you look at that picture on the top left, how is anyone looking down this street and recognizing that a totally unique and special place lies just beyond this. They don't really see anything other than a place for parking, maybe some trees. You cannot see the YMI from this location. But if you were able to limb up some of the trees and remove some of the parking, which our fire department is definitely amenable to, we would be visually connecting things for people. Speaking of the fire department, very, very important use in our downtown, public safety, fire and police. At the same time, our community said, in the future, could you possibly think about moving one or more of those services out of there or changing the way that they operate so that they not only have a positive impact in our lives, but are mitigating the negative impact on our lives. And for those of you who are downtown a lot, you know that you hear sirens, they cut right through the middle of the park at times. For the block community, the way that things are coordinated now for public safety because of the street configuration, you cannot really have festivals or special events like how Goombay used to be on South Market Street. You really can't do that anymore. So they would like to be able to do those types of things like other places in downtown are able to do. That would be considered very, very long-term, like we're talking about a 20-year type of consideration. Those were the 10 design recommendations. There are a few other things that this plan says. One is to assess all the elements in the plaza and determine whether or not they are taking up valuable space, audit and inventory all the memorials, markers, monuments, historic signs, and see whose stories are being told, and if perhaps we could be creating a more inclusive environment by moving some of these markers and bringing other ones in, or thinking about new ways to tell stories. We had a focus group that was just teens, and those teens basically said, we're not interested in your bronze statues. We're interested in interactive environments. We're interested in learning in different ways. We have phones now. We don't need to read plaques. And it was something that sounds really simple, but it's a good wake-up call for us that we're living in a different century when it comes to placemaking in the middle of our downtown. We also heard that a business improvement district or a municipal service district, as it's referred to here, would be a good option for the city and county to consider just for this park alone. In many communities, it takes partnerships like a municipal service district to even program the type of festivals and special events that people want to see. So that promote inclusive and equitable programming, that is something that a entity like, I'm not even gonna name entities, but you can think of not-for-profits that are local that might do a great job at pulling together some more inclusive and equitable programming. As you probably know, the city of Asheville is not responsible for producing many special events. We have some signature events that our Parks and Recreation Department that does that are amazing, and then we let the community do the rest. Alignment with other plans. Downtown Master Plan was adopted in 2009. It may be old, but it's still fantastic. Similar to this plan, it has themes and strategies. 7 themes, 7 strategies. For 4 of those strategies, this plan is lockstep in alignment with promoting implementation of the Downtown Master Plan. Similarly, with Living Asheville and the comp plan, almost all of the strategies, the higher level themes, are lockstep in alignment with what we're proposing for the core of our downtown here in Pack Square. And all that, there's a lot to say. I think if you walked away tonight knowing these 4 things, that this plan is really just trying to say, make Pack Square more usable and accessible, share history and address past harm in this place, provide new experiences, amenities, and connect to the block, you would really get the gist of this plan. I wanted to mention to you that we are working with the Block Collaborative, which is the neighborhood association, on a memorandum of understanding. It's our first priority in implementing the Mellon Grant, which is live on October 1st. That's going to help set expectations for all organizations, city, county, and the Block Collaborative as we move forward so that they have some assurance that that 3-year partnership is going to be meaningful for them. And our other priorities with Next Step include putting out an RFQ for final planning and design of Pack Square. But we'll be working on this for the next 3 years, and we will be developing a funding partnership and, of course, working with City Council and other folks to determine if this plan is adopted, what else might be implemented from it. So I can answer any questions that you may have. And just to remind you, what we're looking for tonight is a recommendation to City Council on whether or not they should adopt this plan.
Thank you for your
Thank you.
presentation. Is there any comments regarding the plan and presentation?
I just have a quick one. I know when we spoke earlier this week, just agenda review, you mentioned, I believe also that the Eastern Band of Cherokee Indians, you had been speaking with them and they were also, I don't know what the right phrasing would be, but they were interested in participating and but you could probably say it better, but that made me feel good.
Great.
Given the nature, however many hundreds, thousands of years history of this being the crossroads.
Absolutely,
Okay.
over 15,000 years, yes. And Kimberly Smith from the Eastern Band of Cherokee Indians is on our advisory committee. So she or the outgoing chief will be speaking on September 26th, which is when council will be seeing this plan.
I felt that was worth mentioning.
Thanks.
All right.
Is this part open to public comment?
Yeah, I was going to open it up.
Yes, ma'am, I'd like to.
Okay. If there's no further comment, let's open for public comment at 5:26 p.m. Go ahead.
Yes, please, thank you.
What's your name,
Regarding
sir?
pedestrian safety,
What's your name, sir?
oh, I'm very sorry, Charles Roddy. Yes, ma'am. Regarding pedestrian safety, many cities in the United States have pedestrian underpasses where, in repose to a crosswalk over the road, you may pass under the road. It alleviates traffic jams, and it allows for greater efficiency for logistics of moving people back and forth. Cincinnati, Ohio has a lot of these. They generally cross joining the corners of blocks, crossing over in between the streets. So the Pack Square area could be accessed more readily by pedestrians by putting these pedestrian underpasses under Biltmore Avenue and in other areas downtown. Wherever pedestrians need to move back and forth more readily, that could be audited and found where that's necessary mostly. And it would really, really help traffic a lot if people don't have to walk across the street. And it would tremendously improve the safety of our pedestrians. And I think we all know there's more and more every year in downtown. So pedestrian traffic is a big part of overall traffic. That's my comment on that. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any other comments?
Hi, my name's Greg Harrison, and I submitted a comment
happy to
via
play that for
video.
you.
Wasn't sure if that would be played here or not. I guess it will.
Near misses, blocked crosswalks, ignored signals, the roar of the engine. Welcome to Pack Square Saturday. Constant chaotic traffic at the gateway to Pack Square. Vehicles enter crosswalks before pedestrians are clear. pedestrians are forced to navigate unsafely as best they can. Constant traffic dominates South Pack Square. And where does that traffic go? The traffic from Pack Square South enters Pack Square Park. Motorcycles, tractor trailers, tour buses. This semi decided to become part of the shindig. And this Volvo joined in. Back at Pack Square, the night riders have arrived. And the pedestrians call it a night. Welcome to Pack Square Saturday. The vision of reshaping Pack Square to be an inclusive, welcoming, and safe community space must start with reclaiming Pack Square for pedestrians. Prioritizing pedestrians is a theme in the Pack Square Plaza plan. Let's make sure prioritizing pedestrians is a priority of that plan. How do we do that? Here are a few suggestions. Integrate testing into the design process. Design tests to temporarily fully close South Pack Square and North Pack Square to vehicle traffic. Temporarily close vehicle access to the Patton Avenue, Biltmore Avenue, Broadway Street intersection at the Pack Square gateway area and test a rerouting plan. Create temporary new and inclusive pedestrian spaces, interactive spaces, and market spaces in the vehicle-free Pack Square. Community and visitors have an opportunity to interact with the new space. How do pedestrians behave? Are they comfortable? Is this an improvement? Are there problems? Does this fit the vision? To prioritize pedestrians and reclaim Pack Square, let's prioritize testing for the Pack Square Plaza visioning. New space.
I know I only have 3 minutes, but I would like to say about 30 seconds worth more, if that's okay. I'm a designer and a fifth-generation Asheville native, a homeowner and a resident of downtown Asheville. The Pack Square Plaza Vision Plan, I think, is brilliant, and my comment is really to prioritize the idea of including testing in the plan. And that testing, the points that I made, I think, are made clearly in the video. Testing being an economical and very effective way to see what might work before making commitments that may cost a lot of money. So I really echo the call to make Pack Square a place for people and to reclaim Pack Square for pedestrians. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. So would staff be able to comment on that, or
I don't know.
would you like to make a comment on public
have to.
comment? No? I will say public comment ended at 5:33.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. I appreciate the presentation and the comments. I will say, I'm curious if sustainability was brought up, if any sort of different materials, water features or strategies, some of the imagery that you presented early on, if that could be incorporated, because that is part of the inclusivity, at least in my mind. So.
It's a good point. The place where sustainability came up the most in public engagement was actually during our design charrette. It was talked about both from a standpoint of making sure that we didn't erase all of the trees from the area and maybe put them in different places, really consider downtown and the heat island effect, carbon capture, all of those types of things. Also, thinking about sustainable materials was brought up. But what I would say to you is that it's important that the public participate in the next step. And the next step is going to be taking things from that to an actual master plan. And by doing that, in the process, we will be talking about exactly what materials that we will be using and the use of, like, where our water goes and how we can potentially recapture it, that type of thing. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm gonna, excuse me, I'm gonna make a quick comment about sustainability too. I wonder if there's any way to not take everything that's there out and just put it in the landfill. Like, is it possible to reuse, repurpose things that are there? Do we have to get rid of all the asphalt? Can you paint it? Make it a part of the campus? Just, it's a, like, let's really blow sustainability wide open kind of thing.
I'll just add that for that planning and design process, we're currently creating a guide for anyone that is hired, and we can include those types of comments in the guide. Thank you.
Any other comments? No?
I'd like to
go
make a
ahead.
comment just saying, thanks to the two public comments, I'd like to kind of second what they said as far as both of them are addressing pedestrian concerns in that crossway. I can't quote it off the top of my head, but I know when I've looked at statistics in the past, Asheville does have a higher pedestrian accident rate than other kind of similar sized cities. So I think anything to help not be that glorious statistic would be good. So thanks for that comment from the public.
Thanks, Britt. So would someone like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion. I
Go
move
ahead.
to recommend council adopt reimagining Pack Square, a vision plan. The Planning and Zoning Commission finds that the request is reasonable, is in the public interest, is consistent with the city's comprehensive plan and other adopted plans, and meets the needs of the community in that plan. 1, builds on the existing assets and history of the study area in context of the pending legal decision regarding the site of the former Vance Monument. 2, creates a vision that values diversity, equity, and inclusion, and considers how the future of the area can support our growing county. 3, provides a framework for future capital improvements and improvements to programming. And 4, outlines both short-term and long-term considerations for the area.
Second.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed? No? Okay. Motion passes to recommend council adopt the plan. Thank you.
Thank you.
Am I supposed to go?
I'm going to do a quick shout out to Ms. Monsendal, who is our new planning director.
Yes.
Didn't want to let that go unnoticed this evening.
And Vice Chair Levi, I believe we're going to have an item continued, and you might want to just talk about that on the, just so if anybody's here for that item. Number 4, is that correct, Will?
Thank you.
On the agenda? Oh, you didn't, okay.
No one told me that. Okay.
So you might want to just, we might make a motion to allow continuance of that.
Yeah, if we could, please
Yeah.
continue that item to the October 4 Planning and Zoning Commission meeting.
Okay, which one?
Item number 4, for the level
Okay.
2 site plan review for 22 Carter Street.
Okay. I make a motion to continue item number 4 on the agenda, ministerial public hearing. It's a request for level 2 site plan review of a new 6-story multi-use hotel building located at 22 Carter Street. The property is identified as PIN number 9649-10-9027 in the Buncombe County tax record. Property owner is Milan CN Asheville Hotel LLC. The applicant contact is Tony Hauser, planner coordinating review, Clay Mitchell. Anyone second?
Second.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Great, thank you.
Yep.
So,
That is going to be continued to the October 4th, 2023 meeting of the Planning and Zoning Commission, correct? So we have a presentation. Mr. Palmquist is going to present on a level 2 site plan review, 68 Carter Street. And just for everyone's information, this is going to be for technical review. Keep that in mind when you're making public comments after the presentation. Thank you. Go ahead.
Great, thank you. Good afternoon, Commission. Will Palmquist with Planning and Urban Design. I'll be presenting this ministerial site plan and review for a Level 2 project known as Carter Street Mixed Use and Tribute Hotel Project located at 68 Carter Street. Here you can see the existing zoning of the basically entire area is CBD. It is outside the traditional downtown core, and it's within the tallest height zone map. The next map shows a little bit better some of the surrounding context. So this is kind of the western side of downtown. You can see Patton Avenue to the south of the screen. The project fronts on both Carter Street and Ann Street. A Hope Day Center is just to the south of this property. The Salvation Army location is to the north on Haywood Street, and the existing use is currently a surface parking lot. I think for the former, or before, used to be the Citizens Times parking lot. Now it's just public parking. The site itself totals about 1 1/4 acres and does not have any frontage on any key pedestrian streets. So the overall site plan is shown here with some more information about the project itself. What's being proposed is a new 8-story tall mixed-use building. It would have 115 hotel guest rooms, which is the maximum number under the hotel overlay that it exists in that allows for large hotels up to that size. I would also have 24 residential dwelling units, 16,000 square feet of commercial space, 165 parking spaces located within 2 levels of underground parking below the building, and 12 bicycle parking spaces, about 150,000 gross square feet for the floor area. Essentially, just kind of orient with north being up, Carter Street is to the right, and Ann Street is to the left. The main hotel entrance would be off of Carter Street, so you kind of come into under the building at grade off Carter Street there, where the mouse is. And there would, up here on the northern side of the site, be a valet area, kind of a car park area to shuffle cars around, and the valet would then take cars down the ramp to the underground levels. The residential parking would be located off of Ann Street. There's some graphics that'll show that better a little bit here too. So overall, the project does satisfy the requirements of the underlying CBD zoning district as well as the hotel overlay district. It also complies with the landscaping requirements for mostly regarding street trees. It also will comply with the tree canopy preservation standards as well. New sidewalks are required to be 10 feet wide, and what's being proposed is a mix, new sidewalks varying in width between 11 and 13 feet on both Carter Street and North Ann Street. So here's some better illustrations from the site plan showing what the hotel is proposed to look like. So you can see the Carter Street facade on the top right here. You can see the 2-story front of the building on the main entrance for the pedestrian, and then for the vehicular access, with the rest of the hotel stepped back and behind that portion. So that's kind of the hotel fronting portion of the building. Top left is the view from Ann Street, and you can kind of see in the bottom right-hand picture a little better how the tallest portion of the building is on Carter Street, and then a 2-story portion actually occupies most of the site, with kind of the vehicular use centered and screened in the middle. There is retail proposed along this section of Ann Street. The residential parking entrance is located here. Here are just some kind of angled views of Ann Street looking south, Ann Street looking a little bit to the north, and the Carter Street views of that proposed building as well. So the process thus far, it was informally reviewed by the Design Review Committee all the way back in October of 2022. It was approved with conditions at the January 9th Technical Review Committee. It was informally reviewed by the Downtown Commission at its April 14th meeting, where they expressed their overall support with providing some comments and feedback on the design going forward. And it was reviewed 3 times formally at the Design Review Committee. Since it is a level 2 hotel project in the hotel overlay, for the project to move forward without having to get council approval, it did need an affirmative vote by the Design Review Committee. So it was continued at both the April and May meetings before being approved with conditions at the July 20th meeting. Staff finds that all technical standards have been or are able to be satisfied and recommends approval of this level 2 ministerial site plan review, and I'd be glad to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. Any questions? Comments?
No.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
We'll let the applicant present.
Yeah, I'm not sure if they have prepared remarks or would like to speak, but they're welcome to do so. Yeah, unless you have any questions for them, they don't have any prepared remarks tonight.
Okay.
I have one, unless I can find it. Mr. Palmquist, you may know where this is. If not, I'm sure I see Mr. Hauser over there. I know he's with the applicant. I'm trying to find where the trash dumpster that is. I thought I knew where it was, but it turns out that's where the transformers are. So that's the only, I was thinking it was down there, but it's transformer. So.
I'm Tony Hauser with WSP, Commissioner, members of the Commission. Thank you for this opportunity to speak with you and to review this project. The trash will be handled from within the parking deck and will be rolled out on the days that it's collected.
Okay, so there's no dumpster at that. What I thought might have been one I see now is the transformer on the lower part of the screen right there.
That's correct. Yeah,
Okay.
the southeast corner there is a transformer. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
And I think Mr. Palmquist said it, but the parking deck is that's not a public parking, it's just for hotel, it's not.
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah. It's for the hotel guests, retail guests, and residents.
Okay.
My favorite question when I was on this commission was
Yeah.
bicycle parking, so I'll tell you that's also within the parking deck.
I found that.
I saw that. Oh, thank you. I appreciate all your hard work that's been put into this, and I like the plans very much. I don't have any comments.
I've got one question for the applicant. I've asked this before on these ministerial hotel reviews. The public benefits that are required as a part of the approval don't need to be filed with the city until the CO, but is the applicant willing to discuss what public benefits will be provided as a part of this project?
The public benefits for this development will be provided through a per room fee for the affordable housing program, and that gets, I think, 210 of the 220 required. I can't recall what the last 10 were. I think we're exceeding the requirement by 20 points or so. It was either public art or I can't remember what the other one is. So I'd be happy to provide that afterwards.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hauser. Is there any further comment or questions? No, let's
should
open
open.
for
Public comment, yeah.
public comment at 5:49 PM. Okay, well then, let's close public comment at 5:50 PM. Would anybody like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Okay,
I move to recommend approval of the Level 2 project located at 68 Carter Street as presented based on site plans, elevations, and materials submitted and discussion heard during this review, subject to addressing any outstanding technical and design review conditions.
Second.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? No, okay, motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Right. Next up on the agenda is a zoning map amendment, a request to conditionally rezone property located at 115 Fairview Avenue from Urban Village UV to residential expansion conditional zone, Res EXP-CZ. The property is identified as PIN number 9647-99-4447 in the Buncombe County Tax Record. The property owner is Robertson's Daughters LLC. The applicant contact is Sean Sains. Planner coordinating review, Clay Mitchell.
Good evening, Chair,
Yeah.
Commissioners, new Commissioner. How are you all? This is a conditional zoning petition. As you said, it's 115 Fairview Road, currently the site of the screen door. This is a proposed rezoning to change the zoning from the current designation of urban village to the new residential expansion conditional zone. Here's the annual aerial imagery. I'm sure many people are familiar with this. It's across, I've taken a step out on the image on the right so that you can see the context. It's across the street from the development known as the district and very close to Biltmore Village. And so there's a lot of transition on either side of this parcel, both to commercial direct mixed use on individual parcels and down into the pedestrian-focused Biltmore Village. To the right in the image, you see the transition to a medium-density single-family home. So it's an area of transition that is important when I go over some of the future land use and the comprehensive plan compliance issues. It is future land use designated as town center. The town center has an extensive amount of text treated to it. To summarize bluntly, the town center future land use designation calls for a mix of uses, high density, diverse residential uses, and a connection and orientation to the public realm. Given the nature of the development and how it fits within that transitional location and the maintenance of existing sidewalks and the railroad really creates kind of a break. So, any kind of connection that we think about, we have to think about down toward Biltmore Village. So there's no way to kind of come from this property and get to that urban corridor area due to the presence of the railroad. And no one should be trespassing on railroads. We therefore don't feel that there should be a change in the future land use designation. This is an overview of the site plan. I always find that the landscaping plans are some of the best to look at. It's an 8.25 acre parcel. There's frontage on both Westview Road as well as Westview Avenue as well as Fairview Road. The main access is off Fairview Road. You can see looking at the screen left at the top is the new connection. And I'm going to defer to the applicant on the status of the traffic study about whether that new dedicated left turn is going to come in. There's been some changes. Transportation Department has been working with the applicant on the configuration of that intersection. The length of the access throat is subject to one of the technical modifications, which I'll go in. It's a little bit shorter because of the configuration of the parcel. It's kind of an odd-shaped parcel, and so the applicant has done a good job of balancing the issues of fitting that development into the parcel and maintaining some of our requirements. What you'll see in the lower right-hand portion of the image is a secondary access. This is a gated, controlled fire access. 2 access points to a development of this size are required. We learned a lot about this during the technical review committee. This site is now compliant with those requirements. It is not going to be used by anyone in the development or the public. It's not going to be a cut through. That preserves kind of that low density feel that we have on Westview Avenue, and the applicant is preserving a significant amount of trees and landscaping along Westview as a part of the buffer. So the site will go down a little bit, and we feel that this enhancement and this connection is the proper way to balance the need for access while at the same time preserving that atmosphere along Westview. In order to achieve the density, the applicant is proposing a 20% affordability units. They're coming in at a density of 34.1. With that standard, they could, the cap is at 50 units per acre. The total development is 269 apartment units and 12 townhome units. The 3 buildings that you see that are very similar in a line are 4plexes, each with townhomes in them, and I believe under garages as well. Overall, there are 333 parking spaces, which is a ratio of 1.2 to 1. 8 of them are accessible. There are 18 spaces for bicycle parking external. Highly likely that there will be bicycle parking internal. That seems to be high demand for most residents in these types of developments. Additionally, the current impervious coverage is 30. At the end of the development, that it will increase to 57%. You see there the stories of the buildings. Building 2 is the larger building, the kind of boomerang shaped, I guess. I don't know what shape that is. It is the larger building. It is 5 stories. The building to the north, the large building 1, is built a little bit into some topography there, so it's a split between 4 and 5 stories, and then the 4plexes are each 3 stories. The ancillary building off the edge of building 2 there, and that why is everybody challenging those shapes? Trapezoidal type thing is a swimming pool. The building serves that swimming pool, and also there will be some common amenities for the residents of the development. The applicant has worked well with city staff to develop contiguous open spaces that exceed our requirements. Tree canopy protection is a mix of planting and preserved spaces. You might notice that white triangle at the bottom, that's railroad right-of-way. That gets taken out of our requirements, so there'll be no incursion into that location. None of that is used for calculations because of that setback. And so in the upper right, again, this shows you the open space as well as the additional buffering requirement. And in the lower left, you see the manifestation of our landscaping requirements as well as tree canopy protection. Here's some renderings. So for this rendering, we're entering the site from Fairview, and you see the amenity building on the right, followed by the larger building. Did I get that right? Yeah. And then the split level building, see the 5 stories on the right side of the building on the left, and then you see a small retaining wall as the topography raises up towards Fairview. And in the distance in this image, you can see the 4plexes. I have some greater details. These are the architectural renderings. This is the north 4 or 5-story building immediately adjacent to Fairview. This is the large building in the center of the development. Remember, there are wings to the building. It's not one big giant rectangle. It actually curves in a little bit into the site. And then this is a representation of the townhome buildings with the under parking. Technical modifications, in addition to our standard conditions, includes a lot of modifications associated with the sidewalks. There'll be 5-foot sidewalks internal to the site, as opposed to normal 10. This gives the developer the flexibility to provide a balance of amenities. It's also more in scale with the development. The normally required 10-foot sidewalk along Fairview is being proposed as 5 feet because there is an existing 5-foot sidewalk with a planting strip already on Fairview. And they will maintain that and replant street trees in that planting strip. So when the road is moved because of the expansion, that planting strip will be preserved. And that provides a buffer between the sidewalk and the roadway. And that carries down on beyond the project as well. And I should have mentioned this earlier, I'm sorry. There is a bus stop on both sides of the street immediately adjacent to this project. There is one relaxation of a front setback, which we believe is consistent. This brings the building closer to the roadway, providing more of that scope and scale of being closer to the pedestrian amenities. That the distance of this stacking area or the throat of the entrance onto Fairview would normally be 90 feet, and the applicant is asking for a 50-foot minimum, which was reviewed and supported by transportation. There will be no bike lanes into the development. There are no bike lanes on Fairview. It is a relatively narrow road to accommodate the traffic lanes. So it's not currently scheduled for expansion of bike facilities at this time. And then you see the affordability components of the conditions over on the right, 80% area median income, and the 20-year restriction to be recorded. In terms of the comprehensive plan goals, this is what I was talking about. This is we see this a lot. It encourages responsible growth by providing infill development. This mirrors that development on the other side of the street. It increases and diversifies housing supply, not only in general in the context of the city of Asheville, but on site with different type bedroom counts in the units, townhome units, and apartment units on the same site, and it promotes the development and availability of affordable and workforce housing, not only with the units themselves, but also with the 20% affordability requirement. Procedurally, this application visited the Technical Review Committee 3 times, twice in July, and then in August 21st, it was approved with conditions and forwarded to this commission. Based on all of that information and the work that both the applicant and staff have done, we recommend approval of the proposed conditional zoning with the project conditions in Exhibit E. And the applicant team is over there tonight. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Do any commissioners have comments or questions?
Thank you, Mr. Mitchell. I am also being the liaison for the Missing Middle Housing Board from this committee. I don't want to put a cart ahead of the horse because I know that group is still working on getting to kind of their final recommendations and such. Since this project involves the townhomes and such, I'd be interested if what their opinion, or not that they have leeway over this, but I'd just be curious if this kind of falls within their vision or what they're recommending. That's just a comment in general.
Okay.
The question I had was the bus stops. Are those existing or are those new ones being put in?
The bus stop, I'm going from memory. The bus stop on the opposite side of the street was upgraded as a part of the district and includes a shelter. On the development side of the street, it is currently a signed bus stop without any improvements.
Okay. Thank you.
Is it not adjacent to the property? It's adjacent to the property to this.
It's about 50 to 100 feet off the property frontage.
That's what I was going to ask.
Sorry.
There's a building there now, right, like on the property?
Yes.
So that's going to be torn down and this will all be rebuilt, or are they incorporating that somehow?
It is not. It is going to be, it would be removed for this development.
I am 99% sure of what the question is going to be, but I'm going to ask Ms. Ashley anyway. Or, excuse me, what the answer is going to be. When the bus stop is not on the actual property that is part of the CZ, we can still ask to have a condition to upgrade it. Like any other condition, the applicant has to agree, but we can still ask, correct? Okay.
It depends who has control control, I assume that's in the
Yeah.
right of way, and so it would just be, if the city owns it.
Yes.
You can't ask them to do something on somebody else's property, but on public
Correct, yeah,
property.
yeah, if it's in the right of way.
And you can ask about that.
Okay, thank you.
It's really hard to see in this image, but this little, it's down
Yeah,
here.
I figured
See
it was,
the
it
little
looks
blue
like
thing?
it's right off the edge. I just am curious. Oh, one other question. Do you know, and the applicant may know this as well, do you know if there was any discussion revolving around traffic about potentially, and I almost hesitate to ask, potentially improving pedestrian access across Fairview Road, knowing that in the district there is a new coffee shop, there's also a fitness place. Like, I could see people walking across that. And if there's going to be some turn lane and potentially islands, or is it just markings to create that turn lane? Is there some way, was it part of the traffic discussion at all? I guess maybe is where I should start.
It was not a part of the technical review committee discussion, but I'm not privy to
Sure.
the TIA, traffic impact analysis, I believe. Do you guys have anything to add?
And they may be able to, yeah, when they come
I'm
up.
interested in hearing about the traffic study.
Thank you, Mr. Mitchell. Like to hear from the applicant.
Good evening. My name is Derek Allen, and I represent the development group. I do have members of the development group Catalyst here. Bo McIntosh and John Bell are both here, as well as Chris Day from our Civil Design Concepts, our engineer, and he'll be answering a lot of those technical questions, particularly as they relate to DOT. A couple of things I wanted to address that came up very quickly at the end. On the bus stop, it's not on our property. We'll take a look, see who owns it. That's something that's easy enough for us to do and would be an attribute to the development for the future residents. And on DOT, same, that mid-block crossing. I know that's typically frowned upon, but that's a DOT decision, and that is an Asheville DOT decision, not the state. I did want to also put out there that we are pushing through Luigi program for this particular property. You'll see those familiar numbers of 20% of the units at 80% AMI de-restricted for at least 20 years. So that's another part of this project that is creeping along towards City Council. The big challenges on this property really result from the shape and the railroad. It's a weird shape. I don't know what shape that is. I don't even know how many sides it is. I do know that this property is one of the few properties that were zoned urban village, and I had to look up urban village, and there's only 3 ever approved. One of them is Biltmore Park. That's the only one that was ever built. The other one's behind Isaac Dixon, and this one. This one, a big portion of it was sold off, and so the master plan that goes with this particular urban village designation was busted whenever that was sold off, and so you're left with this remnant parcel that's a weird shape. One of the things that we hear a lot is this middle housing problem that we have, and that refers to a number of things, but to me, one of the big things is the infill part of that. Here we have this urban developing residential corridor where you have established businesses, restaurants, shops down in Biltmore Village and along Sweeten Creek, and you're starting to see houses and infill development go in. Districts right across, this one makes a lot of sense. And what we've done here is that we've tried to continue that taper, not just along Fairview, but also within our site. When we met with the neighbors early on, they had concerns about multifamily right up on top of the road to the north, and so we oriented the townhomes on that side and put the multifamily on the side with the railroad. So that's the reason for that particular orientation. The turn lane, there was a question about that. That turn lane is on. The NCDOT has finally approved or given final approval of the traffic impact analysis that the Davenport firm had prepared, and that is on file with the city. And one thing I would point out on those technical modifications, there's always this give and take with staff, and they were great to work with on this project, but one department will want something and we'll have to make a modification to make it work. And so when we want to pull those buildings closer in, or we want to put a turn lane in, that pinches in the front of the property, and so we ask for that reduction in the sidewalk. In this particular instance, there's one already there that made a lot of sense. In terms of the other one, the sidewalk orientation, 10-foot wide sidewalks within an apartment complex doesn't make a whole lot of sense. We'd rather use that room for amenities and parking and being able to pull the buildings out of otherwise designed open space. With that, I would like to introduce Chris Day to talk through kind of the technical aspects of what you're looking at here and why things are where they are and where our trash receptacle is located.
Thank you.
Yeah, I just saw it.
Thank you. Once again, Clay does my job way better than I do. And so my name is Chris Day. I'm with Civil Design Concepts. Wanted to just add a couple of things. As Clay just pointed out and pulled up on Google Street View, there is an existing mid-block crosswalk right there at the district. So that works out really well. As Clay already mentioned, as you look at this site from the east to the west, we are right up against Westfield, and we are maintaining existing trees. We're also supplementing those trees with a buffer against those residences. And then we have pulled our site down on the east side, taken that dirt, filled it over on the west side to try and really, maintain the visibility for those neighbors. We heard that at the neighborhood meeting, that was their concern. They've really got some great, as the topography drops off from the Oakley neighborhood down into Biltmore Village, they've got some great views. And so we really oriented our buildings, our taller buildings, away from the residential side of the site to try and minimize any impact on them. There is, as Clay made reference, there is a lot of topography here going on. Along Fairview Road, we've got about 35 feet of elevation change from the right side to the left side. That's why the building is kind of stepped into the hill. That's why it's pulled off up along Fairview Road. In a perfect world, we would try to find a way that we were up against Fairview Road, kind of like the district is on the other side. The advantage the district has is they're on the uphill side, whereas we're down in a hole on that south side. So pulling that away allows for it to work better. The comment and question came up, and we verified today with Chris Carnes, the city traffic engineer. The left turn lane will be installed, and it's, as the plans that are up here, it does represent that. That is just striping associated with that left turn. There's not if we were going to put curbing, I'd like it to be just a little bit of a wider road out there, and we don't have the greatest canvas there to work with, but we do have enough room to get that left turn lane in. Other than that, everything else is pretty typical. No issues with sewer. We've got really high pressures, great water pressures out here. Stormwater, there is an increase. We're still well below the allowable impervious surfaces, but all of that post-construction runoff will be managed and maintained and treated in accordance with the city guidelines. And with that, I'm here for any questions that you guys have.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I have a question about, have you been in contact with the railroad already? I'm asking not, because I know you're not touching the right of way, but I was involved in a project down the street, commercial project that wasn't as simple as I had to get in contact with the railroad and make sure they understood we weren't getting in the right of way and all that stuff. Have you started that conversation?
So I've, all up and down, I've dealt with, we're right at the area where we switch from Norfolk Southern to Watco, Blue Ridge. They are much easier to.
Because that was the only Norfolk.
Yeah. So as you get into Blue Ridge and Watco, they are way more responsive. I can't say that it's easier, but there is a open line of communication. But we have touched base. We know where we are there, and they're aware of it. And luckily, we're not. It's not any real issue here in this situation. So I've got other sites as we go down Hendersonville Road where it can get a lot more, there's a lot bigger conversations going on as we've got cars parked in right-of-ways and things like that. So we're good here.
Okay.
Thank you for the question.
Where can I find the traffic study?
The traffic study should have been submitted. I know your staff report included the final determination of the traffic study and a couple of summary pages. I'm not sure if the rest of it is in the Google Drive.
You can generally, okay.
I've just got a quick question on the affordable housing component. I think normally the projects that seek the LUIG include sort of a redundant provision in the project conditions about voucher acceptance. Would we be willing to add that to this? Or is there some reason that for this one, I know that they've been talking about modifying their policy, so I didn't know if we were.
For the wage program, I think that's separate from the voucher consideration. So they wanted to consider the inclusion of vouchers, they could consider it.
But
I think
when
there's-
it goes to council for LUIG, we would always have the LUIG before approvals before the project, because that's part of the policy, and part of the LUIG policy is you need to commit 50% of the affordable units. They don't have to be set aside for, or maybe it is set aside for vouchers.
It's will accept.
Or will accept.
Yeah, it's will.
Okay. But so the Luigi policy, Derek could probably speak to that, would be reflective of that, and might, by the time council rolls around, be consistent in the language that's in the CZ and for the Luigi.
Exactly, and I can let Derek speak to that a little bit more, but that is in the works right now, so that those get synced up, so that when this would move to council, that those come together at the same time.
Yeah, and we're working on that matrix right now at the points, but we'll have the homeless by name and the voucher considerations in that matrix point. We're working on that letter right now.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Another question I had was on the quadplexes in the affordable housing. For the percentage that is going to be affordable housing, is that just going to be the apartment units, or some of the quadplexes going to be incorporated into that? I'm kind of curious if there is any thoughts at this point.
Like I said, and like Derek made reference, we're still in the process of that application,
Okay.
and I don't know if the units have been identified yet,
Okay.
but definitely take note of your interest on that.
Also, I wanted to point out one of the technical modifications in the staff report is no longer being a part of that. The one about preserving existing zoning, that has been modified to not be in.
Yeah,
Part of the document?
We've worked through that, and it's being removed from the
Okay.
technical modifications. I'm sorry, I tried to follow up and get that out of the way.
Yep, thank you.
But it is out of the condition. It's not in the conditions.
No.
Okay. One comment I'd like to tag on to something Commissioner Fairclough mentioned about the townhomes. When I think of townhomes, I think potential for sale units, and if they end up becoming for sale units, I would love to see at least one out of 12 be at that affordable level. I think affordable for sale is even harder to find in this town. So just proposing that, I know that mix is still, I guess I'm just throwing it out there as a proposal. And one other thing I would I guess, like to, again, kind of throw out there as something to consider. I think Mr. Mitchell mentioned it, and I know it has come up in previous projects before. Some kind of protected bike lockers, bike shelter, something. And I think I would love to say moving forward, I guess for this meeting and the next one I can, would at least like to really ask applicants in looking at these projects in the future, just take one parking space. You could get, if you double height them, you could get, I don't know, 20-something bikes in one parking space. It would be great. And it's, then you're not having people drag them upstairs and potentially bang up walls and finishes and things like that. I think it would just, especially in a place like this, where it would be really, really easy to just have a bike, especially with e-bikes. Nobody wants to drag them upstairs. So,
Right.
but it is a consideration for people thinking, where am I going to lock up this bike? So,
No, it's a good point, and I appreciate you bringing it up. And as Derek made reference with the unique shape of this property, it's created a lot of nooks and crannies for different things like that to
and
frustrate.
they have prefab things. I mean, you can
Right.
buy them and set them up. So
And I also clarify, we are using the term townhome because it's a very good, helps people identify the fact that it's a unit with no one else on top of it. But townhomes are kind of funny in the city of Asheville because of the technical word townhome means it has lot frontage and stuff. So it's a townhome type unit.
Thank you. Any other comments, questions? Someone like to make a motion? Oh, public comment. Let's do that. Public comment at 6:20. Come on up.
Okay, I hope to be concise at this time.
Okay.
Can you say your name again?
As for the planning
just please
people-
state your name.
Oh, I'm sorry. Once again, Charles Roddy. I live at 6 Westview Avenue. I also own 4 Westview and 14 Westview. So I own the 300 feet of road frontage that faces the back of the 3 quadruplexes. And when we had the Zoom meeting, it was discussed that the base footprint of the quadruplexes would be at the same level as the parking lot, and there would be 3 stories. And I'm wondering if that is actually 4 stories, if that is to be considered a garage with 3 stories on top of it, or is it a garage with only 2 stories, being 3 stories overall? So,
They'll have a chance to answer you. Do you have any other further comments?
yes, I have 2 separate concerns. The height of those 3 quadruplexes, I'm hoping that it would be mandated that the overall height of those quadruplexes is limited to 40 feet overall, because they are directly across the street from me, and I can only build up to 40 feet. So I think it's fair to ask that since they front the same street, they should have the same restriction. I could see where these people tried the best they could to leave me a view, and the rest of the people on the street, I appreciate that, but I think their quadruplexes should be limited to 40 feet overall. And that is that for that concern. I have a completely separate concern. I'll try to be concise. The forested area directly behind the 3 quadruplexes has been an established forest for probably decades, maybe 40 years. 3 bear cubs were born in that forested area in a den 3 or 4 years ago. The lady that owns the antique mall told me that, and I see these bears all the time. It is a wildlife corridor. It's an established wildlife corridor that connects that area to the railroad property. If it's possible that the zoning change could be allowed contingent to that wildlife corridor to be deeded, I think that would be a good idea, especially considering that it is steeply sloped and not buildable property. If it could be a deeded forested area, that would be something that could allow the city to give the zoning change to these people in exchange for that. It's not buildable property, and it's forested. It's an established forest. If it's turned into just a swale of
Thank you.
denuded trees.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Hi. Would you like to come up?
Not much for public speaking. My name is Linda, and I live right off Fairview Road. up the hill. And I walk past all the time to Biltmore Village. And my concern is the traffic. That I don't know what your traffic study shows, but if you try to go down at any time when people are coming and going from Biltmore Village, especially in the morning, I work weird hours, it doesn't affect me as much. But that little triangle area by Moe's Barbecue and the little market and trying to get into Biltmore Village, All Souls Crescent and Sweeten Creek Road is a nightmare. If you put 300 more parking spaces and all those people are trying to get out onto Fairview Road, turn left, go into the village, go onto Sweeten Creek Road, try to get to Route 40, that is a nightmare. It already backs up past those railroad tracks. You have to wait through several light turns. There's only enough room for 3 people when you're trying to cross to get to Sweeten Creek from, technically it's London Road and it comes up Fairview and there's the railroad tracks. This is a nightmare for this entire neighborhood. It's not, we're all for affordable housing because there isn't any in this town, but please, please, please consider the traffic ramifications. It is loud. You cannot put speed bumps on that road because of the fire trucks, and this is going to back that road up to the other end to where you get on Route 240. Like, it is going to be a nightmare down by Biltmore Village. Those lights are long. The traffic already comes through Biltmore Village up to that intersection right down from here. We already have the district. We have the other one that's on the other side of Stoner by Thompson Street. All we have is building, 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 and filling in every postage stamp of grass. There is nowhere for these people to drive. This is a traffic nightmare. I'm not against better housing and being productive, I get it. I think the traffic is that's going to be a nightmare, and it's going to be a pedestrian nightmare as well, because now I can walk. It's just going to be awful trying to get down there in your car through Biltmore Village to downtown, anything. You're just overflowing the traffic there. It needs to be redone before something more gets built there and 300 more cars are there. That's, every one of my neighbors feels that way. It's a traffic nightmare. It's just gonna get worse. And we like the Bears. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Okay, public comment is ending at 6:27. Any other comment based on what we heard today?
Would the applicant like to
Yeah.
respond to the height question?
Yeah.
Sure, on the height, it's garage with 2 stories above it. The total height of that building is 38 feet, so it is below 40 feet. In addition, the base level of where those are going to be constructed is 35 feet below Westview, and the homes on Westview are built actually up on the top of a hill, so they're well below visibility at that point.
What can you tell me about the traffic study? Because you did a traffic study, she's brought it up. That is a tight road going in there. So can you give me the highlights?
Sure. When we do these traffic studies, and
Sorry, but thank you for actually doing a traffic study on this.
And so when these things are done, and the reports in there is prepared by Davenport Engineering, and so when they do these reports, the state tells them what to study, what intersections to study. They go out and they do those counts, they do the studies, they measure the acceptability at these different intersections, and then they report back to the state. The state then reviews the recommended improvements from this traffic impact analysis that our engineer that we've paid for has made, and then tells them that they agree with them, that they should modify them, or they need to redo it. Here we have final approval from the state, and what they've said to do with this particular project is to put put the turn lanes in. In terms of the generalized traffic conditions that exist there right now, I think that actually makes the point for this kind of housing. Infill housing ends up cutting down on trips to somewhere else. And being able to walk to a place like Biltmore Village and to Hillman Brewing and to Burial Beer and to Moe's to get food, I mean, that's what you're trying to create. That's what we're trying to create. So filling in those pockets, that's what we're trying to do, and that's where that missing middle housing is. That's where the affordable housing is. That's where our available stock is. So, I think this is the perfect project for something like that.
I wanted to ask about this bear buffer. I guess it's more like there's quite a bit of vegetation being left on that particular side of the property. And is there any sort of setback that was considered as part of that?
Chris, do you want to address that?
Okay. Sorry. So the green parts in this plan are related to this topic. The light green, I guess that's light green? I'm having real issues today. Is open space, that will be on a recorded plan and it has to remain open space. The darker green is the buffer. That will also have to remain. When you look at this plan, you see the grayed areas with circles around it. Those are tree canopy protection. Those are existing trees. Those will have to be protected during construction and preserved in perpetuity. So there is actually a significant amount of preserved area all the way down to here. There will be some disturbances in this location to accommodate, but then you see again more preserved areas that are satisfying the tree canopy protection. So that will be a separate deeded recorded plan that will remain that way in perpetuity. So there's a roadway that bisects it, but for the most part, this represents a linear. If it is in fact a wildlife corridor, this would qualify as something that would be protected in perpetuity at that width.
All right, thank you.
And I'll just add to what Clay said. In terms of those preservations, while a lot of those new trees are like 2 inches in diameter, the trees that we're preserving out there range from 6 inches up to 27 inches in size, and especially in that bottom corners where we have some of the bigger existing trees that are remaining in that natural area and corridor.
All right, thank you.
I'm just going to make one comment. I know it has come up frequently with regards to traffic, and it's one that I feel like we've wrestled with ever since I've been on planning and zoning. I know Multimodal Commission wrestles with this as well, is a lot of times these traffic impacts analyses look at each individual project, and then sometimes it's definitely hard to account for future projects that may happen. They're accounting for projects that may be under construction or may have already been built, but I hope at some point that we may be able to get them better and look at ways, especially along, say, roads like this or Sweeten Creek Road, where we know that we're going to have a lot more future projects, and maybe plan for bike lanes on those roads instead of just adding lanes to them. So it is definitely something that this commission, like I said, for the last 6.5 years has wrestled with, for sure. So, and there's no silver bullet.
Yeah, I guess kind of my thoughts going on that, and again, thank you for actually having a TIA in here and kind of looking through here. I don't know if I agree with it all, but I'm not a traffic engineer, so I have to agree with what they've come up with. I do have concern of that building being so close to the road, it kind of prevents any future expansion of that road. I mean, it kind of, I don't know, I wish that building was further back just because it would allow for there to be some in the future, but sorry, I'm just musing out loud. Thank you.
You're talking right on that one corner right there, where
Yeah.
it pinches up kind of close.
Yeah.
Well, they did ask for an exception on that.
Okay.
I can't remember. You probably know right off the top of your head, Mr. Day. I know it was in the conditions for that, wasn't it? 5, yeah. It went down from 15 to 5, so, I mean, there is some leeway there.
So what do you want to do with that comment?
I'll let you think about that. So it sounded like the applicant was willing, if it was in the public right-of-way and was not going to be on someone else's property, to provide an improved bus stop / shelter on the same side of the road at the adjacent bus stop. Is that generally what I heard? Is that, I think you see what I'm fishing for, Mr. Allen, is that something that they would allow, that your applicant is willing to consider as a condition?
I don't think we can put it as a condition yet because we don't know who controls it. And I think if you put it in as a condition when you don't control it, then you end up with an unenforceable issue that we've run into over and over. I've talked to my clients and we have no problem looking at putting that in, and if it's available to do, we will do that. That's an add-on for our future residents.
Okay, thank you.
And sometimes you can add the condition that you will check with so-and-so, and if it turns out it's in the public realm, then you would agree to it, but.
I was gonna say, I mean, I guess we could say if it does work out before you go to council, maybe then it gets added, perhaps.
Certainly.
You know, yeah. I just wanted to clarify what I was understanding you saying. Thank you.
No, I think at this point I'm not going to change or ask for that the right away to be changed at this point unless another commissioner feels that way.
I mean, I certainly see where you're going with. I kind of like the fact that it pushes up close, but I also am not necessarily ever in favor of widening roads just to widen roads. Like if it was a widening road to put bike lane in, sure. But widening a road to put in 2 more lanes of traffic is not going to solve traffic. Like that just makes more traffic. I think that's been proven that it just makes more traffic.
I agree.
Do they move it 5 feet and make it a 10-foot setback, which is still reduced 5 feet, and then maybe you, at some point you get bike? I kind of like the fact that they're at least trying to push it up when I think, you know, like he mentioned, the district kind of definitely fronts right on it.
Right.
You know, so. I don't know, could they? They probably could push it back at least a few more feet. So.
I'm okay at this point.
Would someone like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion. I move to approve the conditional zoning request for the property located at 115 Fairview Road from urban village to residential expansion conditional zone RES EXPCZ, and find that the request is reasonable, is in the public interest, is consistent with the city's comprehensive plan, and meets the development needs of the community, and that the request, 1, provides infill development in targeted growth areas, 2, increases the supply of affordable housing in proximity to schools, transit, and parks, and 3, promotes the development and availability of affordable and workforce housing.
Second.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Okay. Motion passes. That is all for our agenda tonight. Thank you all who presented and commented tonight. Our next Planning and Zoning Commission meeting will be Wednesday, October 4th, 2023. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Just one second, I don't know, do we know when this is scheduled to go to, so the conditional zoning goes on to council for final approval. This isn't the final approval. Do you know yet, Derek? I know you have to work out the land use incentive.
I don't, because the Luigi is going to dictate that. So, however, finally, the HCD and then finance get matched up, is we will go to council.
So maybe November, just so the public who's interested in this could be looking. It will be posted on the site, but it goes to city council. October, November. Okay.
It'll be the second meeting in October. Or
Second meeting in
or the only meeting in November.
Okay.
I'll motion to adjourn.
Aye.
Still have to vote? Okay. Motion to adjourn, all right. All in favor?